Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about Sadali Crysthea, which is our new 100 cost wind unit and a highly anticipated one at that. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to give a quick update on my concussion. You might have seen that I had one from my community post. I'm doing a little bit better, but it's still pretty difficult to go to work and then do something like a video. So there's just going to be a longer period between when I create stuff. So for example, I'm going to film this, but I'm not going to edit it straight away because this is a lot to be filming right now. But I'm feeling better every single day. So thank you to those of you that have reached out. Otherwise, let's get into the video. For those of you that usually watch my videos, you know I don't like to read directly off of warofthevisionscalc.com, but I am going to use the site in this video because I think it is important to look at Sadali's kit as a whole. So let's start by talking about his stats. They look really good. High HP, high magic stat, a little bit of spirit, and then a really good agility stat. His accuracy isn't anything special to write home about, but he does have a good building point if you're going to stack him with accuracy gear. He also has a 100% hit on his Kodadama wielder sub job. The one thing here I want to talk about is his AP, because he has a passive skill that will put him up to 150 AP, which is a decent amount to have, but it's kind of like the standard for a lot of mages. So it's almost like he has this weird passive that you'd rather not equip because it gives him AP and TP, which he doesn't need more TP. So really it's like, hey, put this on so that he has like a regular starting amount of AP. His AP is good already. If you're finding that he's not running out of AP in a fight, you won't have to use that passive. However, in a guild battle situation, you might want to use it. Again though, he's kind of like an attacker slash buffer, so you actually might just be generating enough AP already, especially with the amount of acquired AP up we can get these days, so that's just something that you can consider. Sadali has a very nice amount of spirit penetration on his kit. He gets 10 from his mastery ability and then 50 from a TP buff that he will use, so that's a really welcome sight because all of his skills are magic based. However, he does have both missile and magic attack skills. Okay, so let's talk about Sadali's kit because it's very strong. The passives are pretty self-explanatory. He's going to be even faster than what we just saw because he gets agility from one of his main job passives. And then this is what I was talking about. You can increase his AP and his TP, but I don't know that that's actually going to be necessary because you have some pretty good options here to increase his spirit, his defense and spirit, or just his magic stats so that he can deal more damage. His counter is really good as it has a high chance at 30%, and then it has a total dispel here for any sort of buffs, haste. Of course not protect and shell, you can't remove that with dispel, but everything else it will cover. That's a really nice counter if he will actually survive damage, which you can totally build him to survive some damage, and the range on it is also quite nice. So 4 squares, 30% chance to counter, that's really good. His main kit is pretty interesting, and there's only 3 attacks on here. So we have a magic, like a bread and butter magic attack that cancels ability activation. We have a magic attack called Don't Hurry, and this is really good. Okay, this is a huge AoE. It's got a range height too, and it decreases CT and it decreases agility by 30%. It's got a decent damage modifier, and the only downside to this skill is it has a casting time of 200. Now, we can reduce our casting time quite a bit on Sadali's kit by like a whopping 800 or more, depending on you know, if you're using Valfor or something. So you can actually get his casting time down quite low, but this skill is nuts. This skill is going to enable you in a PvP fight to completely block out the other team and let your team lap them and just follow up and kill them and chain on them. So this is a really powerful skill. You have to work around the cast time. Now Sadali also has a archery missile based skill. It's still magic scaling though, and this skill has a decent range here. You can see it has range height 1 but 5 range. It inflicts confusion, it decreases missile resistance, and then it also, which is a long-term buff, so that works with your other missile units, and then it also has a chance to decrease their acquired AP by 80% if they have confusion on. Not that they're going to be generating that much AP anyway when they have confusion, unless they had just used bells. So when you look at his main kit here, it only has 3 skills for attacking, and that's important because if you put his devout sub kit on, you've got a whole bunch of support skills, and this is where Sadali's AI is meant to be an attacking AI, so he can actually you know, attack over buffing. He's going to move forward after buffing, and that's really good. That's good news, but he can also be very supportive if he doesn't have any skills that are in range, or maybe he's going to, you turn off some skills to make him a buffer if you really, really want to, because he has a couple of heals here, some really powerful heals to be honest, and then a couple of really powerful buffs as well that you might actually want to use on your team. In manual play, he's going to be a dream, like honestly. If you want to use his sub kit, you get access to a wind imperil, pretty strong wind imperil to be honest, and some move and jump skills, but that also will give you access to more decreased skill, attack skill activation time for him as well. Jumping back up to his main job, he has some really good supporting skills as well. So the first one is this Holy Word of Power. It gives attack and magic buff to all the allies it hits, plus some AoE resistance for wind allies specifically. He's going to work best in a wind team, especially with his devout sub. So we see here God of Liberation. This is the skill that gets no cast time once it goes to EX jobs, and this gives 20% elemental resistance, and then dispel auto restore, and it dispels follow-up cast for 3 turns, and then gives Sadali some spirit penetration. This is a very important skill for Sadali for his damage, but it's also a really important skill for your team. Elemental resistance is something that is very hard. We don't see that many imperils of it, or what we don't see is a lot of penetrations for it. So if you're able to raise your elemental resistance, you can survive damage. So this is actually more important than his Holy Word of Power buff. You want him to be using this first, and then if he has time, Holy Word of Power. But the other buff that you want him to use is this Immortal Dogma buff, which is a re-raise skill that also gives the target hate. So if you use this on a tank, then they're going to have even more hate, depending on what it stacks with, but they're also going to have re-raise. If you use this on somebody else, then it won't be Sadali. So maybe Sadali survives and can heal that person depending on how you've finagled his AI. Either way, it's a really powerful skill to have re-raise or on your kit, so really love that. Real quick, we can use Kododama to look at his 100% hit skill. We can also increase our move and jump, but we can do that on his sub job anyway. So you really don't need to use this sub kit unless you want access to that 100% hit. Maybe if you want the barrier, but again, he can't cast that many skills in a row before engaging with the enemy. So really, you're just going to be using either the Devout for ultra support or his own sub kit, just because I think that movement buff is a lot better than the other one, and you also get access to the Wind Imperil, which could be quite powerful. And finally, let's talk about his limit burst, because this is really powerful. It's his one area where he gets some magic resist penetration. So remember, he can decrease missile resistance, but he doesn't actually have any innate magic resist penetration until you use your LB, and it's only for the LB. But man, what an LB. This is going to have a super high chance to inflict charm. Then while the enemy is charmed, they get buffed. Their attack and their magic get buffed, so they deal even more damage for you. This is one of the most powerful LBs that we've ever seen. It actually has a range height 2 and then a 4 square range, so it's very easy for him to use this LB. It's honestly the highlight of his kit. It's a really big deal. I'm looking forward to, well, I'm not really looking forward to it, to be honest with you, because I'm not pulling for Sadali. So yeah, you know what, scratch that. I am not looking forward to this LB being used against me, because frankly, that's not cool. The next thing we're going to look at are some comparisons, and we can see that Sadali compares quite favorably to these 2 units I've picked, which are Helena and Moore. Moore's claim to fame is her accuracy, as well as some of the supportive skills that she can use, but I think Sadali matches her, if not improves on her, on a lot of his supporting abilities. Yes, he's not buffing defense and spirit, but he is able to do the re-raise. The elemental resist is even stronger than defense and spirit, and he just doesn't have that accuracy component, but again, we can kind of correct for that a bit, and evade is kind of sliding in and out of the meta depending on what the map settings are. There's a lot of non-evade as well, which Sadali can really shine in, and he can also just support your team. If he can't hit, then maybe he's healing or using some buffing skills, but you can see that he has a really nice magic stack, especially compared to Helena. Now Helena is going to have her 60% magic buff, so it's not really super accurate when you say she has 519 magic, but then his agility looks really good compared to these 2 units, and a little bit of innate spirit is also really solid. I think Sadali is going to compare favorably to most mages just because his kit does so much. The support that it provides is very impactful. Like, each thing that he can do is more impactful than what a lot of other units bring to the table, but then he's also able to deal lots of damage, multiple types of damage, bypass resistances, and then charm your enemy and win a match outright with that. So I think that if people are looking to upgrade them like a mage character on their account, if you're big into wind, then I think Sadali is going to please a lot of people. I've already been singing the praises of Sadali, so at this point, if you don't get it, he is a great unit, and I think that a lot of people should be pulling for him. And the reason that you wouldn't is that, one, you're just not that interested in him for some reason, or two, you're just the type that is saving for limited units, because at the end of the day, he's not limited. However, he is powerful enough that he will impact guild battle, he'll impact arena, and that he's worthy of pulling for your account. So really, at the end of the day, it comes down to you and what you think about him as a unit. If you're wondering if he has any weaknesses, I mean, he's not the tankiest character in the world. He could be built quite tanky. Really, his greatest weakness, and it's hard to say that because he has these other ways of dealing damage, is that he just can't break magical barriers. And you know what? There's lots of units that can break barriers. He's not one of them. That is a bit of an issue. It's not a deal breaker though, and he does have access to magic resist penetration on his LB. We can give it to him via staffs and via his trust stones. So there's lots of ways. Same thing with missile penetration. We could give him some of that with some items, but we also can just imperil missile resistance with his one of his skills. So that's not a huge deal. He's still going to be a great damage dealer. There really isn't that much bad to say about him. And I already spoiled it, but I will not be pulling for Sadali. I'm just going to continue saving for the future because I'm pretty happy with my account and where it's at. But if you are looking to upgrade your account, and if you're thinking, well, it's been a while since I pulled on a big, meta unit, then this might be the unit for you. You definitely can't go wrong with him. It just really depends on what you're saving for and if you prioritize limited units or not. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that it was okay, this style. I know it's a little bit different than what I normally do, and it's partly because I wanted to show his kit as a whole so you could see the 3 skills compared to, how much support skills he can add from Devout, but also this was a little bit easier on me than doing it my typical way with editing, etc. So it's a little bit easier on my head after the concussion that I suffered. But I'm going to be back to 100% before you know it, and when I do get back to 100%, I will be streaming, etc. So if you're new to the channel and you want to see more War of the Visions content, let me know in the comments, and if you want to see some streams, let me know what you'd like to see. Otherwise, I will see you all in the next video, hopefully later this week, assuming that I'm still feeling well. But that's enough about me. We'll see you all in the next video.